Good evening, everyone. Thanks for being with us. Before I begin my very first show right here at Reid Between the Lines, I want to say thank you. Thank you to everybody out there who's been supporting this project, showing engagement on our social networks. I also want to say thank you to our partners and sponsors and people who have believed in this project prior to it even making it to air. We look forward to having you on board for the next 36 weeks, and what a wild ride it will be. We encourage you to join the conversation at facebook.com/RBTLSports, as well as on Twitter @RBTLSports. My commitment to you as a host over these next 36 weeks is simple. I want to bring you an uncut, unfiltered, raw look at professional sports. Not just hockey, not just the Habs. It's been a busy week in sports. Let's get cracking. On this week's segment of Pretender and Contender, we discuss the Dallas Cowboys. Sitting at 4-1, are they for real? We also dive in with regards to the Eastern Conference in the National Hockey League. Do they have what it takes to finally create a champion and win the Stanley Cup? And last but not least, I face off one-on-one with none other than Patrick the Predator Cote. It's been a long time coming, but it's finally time to read between the lines. Welcome to the Four Down segment, where we break down one of the storylines, headlines that caught our attention, and we're breaking it down for you 4 different ways every week. We, of course, invite you to join the conversation at facebook.com/RBTLSports, as well as on Twitter @RBTLSports. Our very first guest of our very first show is someone who I hold in very high regard. He's a singer, songwriter, jack of all trades, and a master of all. It is a true pleasure to welcome this man right here, Anakin Slade. Thanks for being on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for that intro.
How do you like the set? How do you like our new home? 36 weeks?
Looking beautiful, honestly.
Look forward to having you as a regular guest on our show. Thanks for taking the time.
I will be here.
Also want to welcome our RBTL contributor, Anthony Cornelli, always dressed well, of course, for the occasion. And he is a diehard City F fan. We're going to have a lot of conversation with regards to soccer throughout the season. And I look forward to some heated debates with you. So great to have you on.
I look forward to fighting you.
All the way, right? All the way. Even the first show, day one, we got to go at it. There
Absolutely.
It is. I also want to welcome, a special welcome to you, David Hurley. You're an NFL guy, a little bit of everything. You're going to be talking some sports, very opinionated. Passion is one of the reasons why I have you as one of my co-hosts.
It should be a lot of fun.
It should be a lot of fun.
36 weeks is going to be
Hopefully
challenging.
we won't hate each other too much by
week 6.
Gentlemen, I want to talk about the Eastern Conference in hockey. There's no denying the fact that the West has been dominating the East for 12 years and counting, if not more. We'll start with you, Anthony, in terms of thinking maybe, does the Eastern Conference in hockey stand a chance of winning the Stanley Cup this year?
No chance. In terms of dominance since the lockout, the Western Conference has swept the Eastern Conference out of the box. If we look at numbers, the Western Conference has a 59.6% winning percentage over the Eastern Conference. And over the last year, that number's increased by 10.
Is that a style of play issue with regards to the difference between the West and East? Anakin, do you find it's a style? Is it a mentality? Is it the fact that the players are diluted more in the East than the West? What do you think that's a credit to?
I think it used to be a style. I think you used to see more of the big bad teams in the West, like Anaheim, which I guess they still have a little bit of that element. But I think in recent years, the East, with Boston primarily, have kind of evened that gap. But I think in the East, we're seeing a sort of decline. Some of these teams, Boston, you can see their decline starting. And I think Pittsburgh will always be that. Is this the year where
Pittsburgh has a shot? Really?
Well, I mean, with a new coach, right? That could go one way or the other.
Sure.
It could be this new kick in the ass that they need, or it's the beginning of the end for them.
I would have to think, though, that if you look at the last 5 years of the Stanley Cup Finals, you've had LA twice and you've had Chicago twice, and those teams are still just as good. So you're going to look again and see one of those two teams.
Yeah, Boston's taken a step back for sure.
Boston has taken a step back. They've lost a little bit of speed, and they're older. They're not as strong. Like Zdeno Chara's 37 years old. He's gotten a lot older.
But in all fairness, if you take a look at the Eastern Conference, right? So in 2011, Boston wins. Boston's very close to forcing a Game 7 in 2012. If it wasn't for Chicago scoring 2 goals in what was it, a minute and 10 seconds. Yeah. Last year, the best representation of the Eastern Conference was not in the Stanley Cup Final. I mean, New York was not the best team. No. You were there. You were actually in LA, right? You caught a few games.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there was a huge disparity between both teams.
Right. I mean, they came out the gate pretty much every game with a lot of fire. But LA's just one of those teams. It's like, it felt like they could just win when they wanted to. You know, they had that superiority. Even in overtime, I never thought that the Rangers were going to win any games. It's just LA has that thing about them, and I don't see any team in the East that has that winning spirit. You know,
besides Boston and Pittsburgh, the Eastern Conference contenders have fluctuated. There hasn't been any
they've
real
had 5
consistency.
different Eastern Conference finalists.
We kept on mentioning Boston,
in the last 6
Boston,
years.
Boston, but a conference has made 15, 16 teams.
Sure.
Has to be more than just Boston and Pittsburgh that are carrying the Eastern Conference.
How do you like Tampa Bay? Tampa Bay looks pretty good.
I
this
really
year.
like Tampa. We saw them close up here in Montreal, where we saw a lot of their young guys really starting to come into their own during the playoffs, even though they got swept. But I think they're going to be a major contender this year, especially if Stamkos stays healthy.
Yeah, I think they got to work. They got to watch out for Ben Bishop as well. I think that people are overrating Ben Bishop. Ben Bishop is getting a lot of praise for what he did last season.
Yeah.
But let's see him do it back-to-back seasons. He's been in the league for about 6 seasons now, and he's never put consistent numbers up. So let's see him do that back to week-to-week basis to really help Tampa Bay guide them. I still think the West is much, much stronger. Look at Anaheim.
And I think a big issue with the East, too, is that grind, right? You saw LA win 3 Game 7s, all 3 on the road, and they won them all. And you look at the grind, and some would say, well, that's going to hinder your chance of winning the Stanley Cup. Yet, because of that grind, because of that sacrifice that gets instilled with you in the first series, that's maybe something the East doesn't have. You don't have that physicality, the same physicality as you have in the West.
Well, no, like all the teams seem to struggle with. I mean, you know, LA just has that barrage constantly. They're always on you. And after a while, the teams just get tired. You saw that with New York. They started out the gate really strong, and then they were just tired by the end. And Montreal's going to have the same problem. And any other, Tampa, you know, they're not experienced going deep, so we'll see how they react to that.
The way the NHL works is in the playoffs is your top 3 lines are the most important. Now every team's got that 1-2 punch that they're going to go to.
Chicago's
but your third line is the line that gets that most opportunity.
Absolutely.
And when you look at these teams like LA and Chicago,
they all step up.
They're huge on third line. They got Bickles playing on the third line. You have Patrick Sharp sometimes playing on the third line. Marian Hossa slides sometimes.
Can you remember any better hockey than the Western Conference Finals of last year?
Oh wow.
Can anybody mention any kind of Western Final or Eastern Final that was better than that? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, 2002, 2003, Colorado, when they were making it. I mean, on a regular basis. I mean, Colorado, Detroit.
Well, the Detroit-Colorado series were crazy.
But my gosh, Chicago, you almost feel like the Western Conference is where the Stanley Cup is dictated. Did you get that feeling when you were?
I was in LA, and I remember watching that series and saying, well, this is the Stanley Cup final. You know, whoever wins Chicago or LA is winning. I don't think anybody thought that the Rangers or the Canadiens had a chance against either the Kings or the Blackhawks in the final. And yeah, that Game 7 where they won again in overtime, the Kings just seemed to do it.
You got to witness that.
Yeah,
on the bucket list.
I wasn't obviously there because it was in Chicago, or was it in Chicago? The Kings won
in Chicago.
In Chicago, that's right. But I saw the Stanley Cup winning goal. Yeah, and so that was one of the bucket list definitely. And I was really happy to be there.
On that note, gentlemen, don't go anywhere. I want to know what you have to say about the Dallas Cowboys. We're switching gears. We're going to the NFL to find out if they are pretenders or contenders. Don't go anywhere. All that and more, all right here on Read Between the Lines. Historically, the Dallas Cowboys have been up and down. One week they're on, the next week Tony Romo throws more picks than a professional basketball player. And on this week's Pretender Contenders, we're talking about the Dallas Cowboys. Are they for real? We're joining again by Anakin Slay. Great to have you back on the panel, as well as this man right here, David Hurley, RBTL contributor. And of course, first time on our show, RBTL contributor Pierre Evans. Just great to have you, and I look forward to some heated debates, including your Dallas Cowboys.
Talk about
we're talking
the Cowboys,
about.
finally.
There you go. Very good. Welcome to the show, and welcome to a great season. Anakin, I want to start with you. Right before going to break, we talked about the Dallas Cowboys. Are they for real? Are they a contender or are they a pretender?
I think they're a pretender, primarily because they're the Dallas Cowboys.
There it is. There it is.
You went there.
But I think at the end of the day, we all know that this team rests on Tony Romo, whether he can really perform in those big games. Is he the elite quarterback that the statistics say he is, but the big games just
especially in November, December.
Exactly.
I'd have to agree with him. In the month of November, they always tend to choke. And look at that defense. That defense was ranked last season. This season, they've allowed points against St. Louis, Houston, and they had a hard time.
And it's not getting any better either. Their yards per play is actually higher this year than it was last year.
And they lost Maurice Claiborne. Maurice Claiborne's one of those key corners. Who's Tyler Patman? He's the guy that's going to replace him?
At the end of the day, they're winning those games.
Yeah.
And it'd be easy for us to say, well, you know, they have the worst defense, but they have a top five offense. Yeah. And it goes a long way.
And DeMarco Murray has to be the biggest story for you guys this year.
He's a beast.
It's just been phenomenal for you guys this year.
He's on pace to break the record. Not sure if he's going to do it, but for him to be that far ahead into the race, for me, it's a difference.
You've seen a 4-game winning streak before. It happened in 2008.
Yeah.
Jason Williams was on that team. Ladouceur was on that team. Romo was on that team. Is there something different about the Cowboys this year? Do you feel something in their game, or is it still too early to tell with the 2 games coming up, which are huge games for the Dallas Cowboys?
It's all about balance. I think they're more balanced. They're not putting everything on Romo's shoulders, and for me, that's the difference.
Yeah, that's what's been helping them out quite a bit. They've been running the ball and giving Romo. They're not giving Romo the chance to lose the game.
Yeah.
Because when he throws those timely picks, because he tends to do that,
Hey.
we've seen it every year.
Yeah.
They've had a chance to win
Trust
a year
me.
in the last 3 seasons to win the NFC East, and they've lost all 3 of those games.
You know, we talk about America's team, as they call the Dallas Cowboys, and
They
how
are
it's important for them.
They are
There you go,
America's
and how it's important for them to do well. Do you think this is good for the NFL, or has there been many teams that have stepped out? You look at the Broncos, you look at the Seahawks, you look at people who have already made their names in the NFL. Do you feel that maybe this could be a good thing for the NFL to see the Dallas do well?
I think it's always the case. I think in every sport you got those teams that you want to see do well, like the Yankees. I'm sure the MLB wants the Yankees to do well, go deep in the playoffs.
The main teams.
Right, and I think maybe that's a good thing. I don't really understand it. I'm not sure why the Cowboys have been established as America's team. I mean,
Those 90s, they were pretty dominant.
When you're winning,
pretty dominant.
I mean, that was a
winning,
dynasty, right? They rode that dynasty in the 90s. I mean, that's
there's
where
the
it stems
49ers. There's the the
Yeah.
Steelers have always been good. I mean, it's a bit funny, but I guess it's the star.
Yeah.
It's the Stars,
that might
the
be it.
Cowboys,
Yeah.
the cheerleaders, the crazy owner.
Were you surprised to see the amount of fans for the Texans at that last game, last Sunday?
Wasn't more surprised than. It's not more shocked. It's just that you would expect the Dallas Cowboys fans, even in Dallas, even though Houston is close, to outdraw the Houston fans.
I was surprised by
but
Tony Romo's comments. Tony Romo saying that it felt like a road game.
They
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
use a
How does
silent
that even
count.
happen at home?
They had to use a silent count. That speaks volumes to how,
Yeah, that's incredible.
how bad they were.
They've got
outnumbered.
2 games on tap, which are huge. This is going to be the make or break for the Dallas Cowboys. Right now, it's a feel-good story, but
Yeah.
can you maybe give us a little bit of insight with regards to what you think?
Well, they got
is this where they become pretender or contender over the next 2 games?
I think it's going to be towards the latter half of the season, actually. I think it's the last 6 games of the year, but we've talked about it in the past, where Tony Romo is not the same quarterback in cold weather. But you're going to be playing on the road against the division in Philadelphia, in Washington. Those are tough games
It's tough.
coming up. You're also playing Arizona coming up. You have Seattle coming up. These are tough matchups. You're playing really, really strong teams. I don't know if Tony Romo and the Dallas Cowboys are going to be able to keep up the same pace that they're on.
I think the Seattle game is going to be the game. If they come out of that game, even though if they lose, if they make it competitive, and then they go on into that stretch playing the Redskins, playing the Giants, and do well, that's going to speak volumes to whether they've changed and they've gone to that next step.
Do you foresee a big performance by DeMarco Murray against that defense? I mean, with regards to Seattle and that matchup, I mean, that's going to be
It's going to be tough because you don't run the ball on Seattle.
Exactly.
You just don't. So
Exactly.
you have to find another way. So it's going to speak to Tony Romo to be the difference, at least in that game. Not every game, but that game is going to have to step up.
I think that's one of the things about the Dallas Cowboys that have people excited in the sense that Romo finally has options. I mean, this is where it becomes really interesting, and this is why the fans are so excited. This is why we're talking about it now, because if it wasn't for DeMarco Murray and some of the big additions they've made, I mean, you don't have the same Cowboys team. It's nowhere near the same team.
Right, and Des Bryant. I mean, that's you talk about a game of inches, right?
Sure.
The way last weekend, the way he pulled in that ball, that's an incomplete pass, and and they don't win
Game
that
over.
game, right?
Yeah.
So it's a game of inches, and I think the Cowboys also have another thing, which is that there's no beast in that division.
There's still the Eagles.
But the Eagles are kind of in the same boat as the
sort
Cowboys.
of-
They're in
identity
cancel each
crisis
other.
as well.
Yeah, they cancel
absolutely.
each other out. for the
Their
most part.
They're a high-scoring offense.
record is not reflective of how they're playing. They played the Rams and it got close there.
Safe to say you're not only a baseball fan and a hockey fan, you're also a sports fan. Great to have you on the show. Thanks for doing this. Before we let you go, I'll just give you maybe an opportunity for you to be able to showcase to people where they can follow you and some of the projects you're working on.
Yeah, AnakinSlade.com. I'm on Twitter at AnakinSlade, and I got a new record coming out in the next few months called Leave It to Us. And you can always see my stuff on YouTube, my sports songs. So
Very
check
good.
me out there.
Stay with us after the break. The spread is up next. It's Thursday Night Football. We got your picks. Don't go anywhere. It's Thursday night, baby. You know what that means. We've got your picks in college football, in NFL, as well as soccer. And we've got your inside scoop, and we're joined by RBTL contributors Pierre Evans-Just, Anthony Cornelli, and David Hurley. Great to have you guys, gentlemen. So much to talk about on Thursdays, is there not?
Absolutely.
There's just so many matchups. Let's talk about football. Huge matchup in the NFL on Thursday
Yeah,
night.
we have the Indianapolis Colts at home against the Houston Texans. Indianapolis has won 3 in a row, and under the tutelage of Andrew Luck.
The tutelage.
Yes, we're going to
Okay.
keep going. The leading passer in the NFL is going to continue his streak, and I think they win by more than 2.5 at home.
Any chance that the loss that the Texans suffered last weekend is going to play any part?
For
with
sure,
regards to
it'll for
confidence
sure
standpoint?
confidence-wise, and then Indianapolis has won 3 in a row, and the 2 losses that they had were last second by 3. I think they come out and they will win at home.
Well, one team that's not lacking confidence, might even throw a little bit of arrogance, is the Italian team. Forza Italia is playing against Azerbaijan. I'd be surprised if you said anything else but Italy. But what do you have going down? What's the storyline here?
Italy, Azerbaijan at home in Rome. Conte came out to a good start. He's 2-0. I see Italy not losing this game. They have 2 big games coming up, Bulgaria, Croatia. They can't afford to slip up.
You surprised that Conte let Balotelli off the team?
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Okay, so roll with it.
Roll with
it. If last weekend was any indication of what we saw in college football,
Big weekend.
We are lining up for a good one.
Big
As Auburn
weekend.
face off against Mississippi State, what do you foresee going on? Is there a chance of an upset going on?
Coming up a big win, Mississippi State going into Auburn. Auburn ranked number 2 team in the country. You have the Heisman hopeful Nick Marshall versus the other
Marshall's
Heisman
good.
hopeful Dak Prescott. I got Auburn at home minus the 2.5 points.
Okay, so it's time for our picks. We'll start with you, David, in our respective sports.
So we got the Colts, we've got War Eagle, I'll take Auburn, and I'll take Forza Azzurri Italia to win.
We've got your picks, Anthony.
I'm going to go with Auburn at home to cover 2.5. I'm going to test my luck with the Colts. They're going to win at home. And I got Italy covering 3-0. And to throw salt in the wound, Graziano Pelle, newly called up international, is going to score. And Balotelli's watching from home on his TV.
Wow.
See, that's the cockiness I'm talking about.
That's-
You see
that's-
that?
that's-
You
that's some
you
swag
that?
right there.
That's swag right
That's
there?
what we do best.
He knew.
What do you have? What do you have on top? What
I
are your
have
picks?
Italy. Otherwise, Anthony's not going to talk to me ever again.
Absolutely right.
I don't
Absolutely
have a
right.
choice. And I have Houston in an upset.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
J.J. Watt and that
I'm going
defense
up-
are coming up big, eh?
Hey,
I
we'll
see.
see.
I got
J.J. Watt with a vengeance, baby.
All right, the upset, Mississippi State. I've got the Colts, and I also have, of course, Team Italy. They're going to do well, and I think they're going to do more than 3-0, so it's going to be interesting. We're going to be tallying up our points throughout the season to see who's got more game. We'll be keeping you posted. We encourage you to join the conversation over our website as well as Facebook. Don't go anywhere. We've got a lot more coming up as I face off against Patrick, the Predator Cote. Fighting out of Montreal, Quebec, he's fought in the UFC as a middleweight, was also the middleweight TKO champion. He's somebody I hold in very high regard and also part of the French broadcasting team over at TVA Sports. It's awesome to be able to face off against this man right here, Patrick the Predator Cote. Patrick, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for taking some time. I know it's been busy for you the last couple of weeks. I want to rewind way back, 10 years way back. Can you believe it's been 10 years you had your first fight?
Sometimes it's hard to believe that.
It's 2004.
Yeah, 2004.
The phone rings and they're telling you, who are you going to fight?
Yeah, but I was supposed to be on that card anyway on UFC 50. That was in Atlantic City at this time. I was supposed to fight Marvin Eastman on the first fight of the prelim, and Tito Ortiz was the main event against Guy Mesger.
So
And,
where are you when you get this phone call? So they're telling you, Tito Ortiz, where are you when you get this call?
Yeah, but the thing is, Guy Mesger got a stroke, and they were searching a late replacement to replace him. And I was probably the last guy they called because everybody was saying no. And I was at home, and I don't know. I had a feeling that maybe could happen. This thing.
Bring us back to the fight with Anderson Silva. A, the fight itself when you're coming up to the ring knowing you're fighting the Spider, and B, how was it in the locker room after the knee got blown out? And what were you thinking?
Yeah, the thing, everybody know what happened. You know, it was a bad luck and bad time. But at the same time, you know, we weren't scared of him. You know, we went there and we didn't wanted to show him that we were scared or something like that, because you know all the fighters who fought him before, they were already losing before the fight. You know, you couldn't see that by the language, the body language. Sure. So, but you know what? I'm not gonna lie, that was complicated.
Complicated is a politically correct word.
That was complicated because you know it was like the new Bruce. He likes moving like water, and every time I tried to hit him, he wasn't there.
Have you ever seen anybody? Have you ever seen or fought or being as close as you were to Silva in the ring with him? Have you ever seen anything like it? Is he truly a phenomenal based from another mixed martial artist
especially at this time. This time he was on the peak, you know. He was like unbeatable. But you know what? you know, you never know what could happen. You know,
course.
if my knee didn't blew out. But you know, I never said I was winning the fight, but I was still there. I'm a puncher, so I can knock anybody out in any time.
There's also the perspective of the other side of MMA. You know, obviously the lights are on you. The spotlight goes off after that fight, and I'm sure it was a very difficult time for you in your career. A lot of the guys don't bounce back from that. Some of them do, some of them don't. You've done very well in terms of broadcasting, etc. There's a lot of fighters who don't. Can you give us a inside perspective of the dark side of MMA, the darker side of these guys and how they train and maybe the compensation that's paid out? You know, the other side of all the glitz and spotlight that we see on the UFC card.
Yeah, you're right. It's a tough life. You know, it's a tough life, but you have to take advantage of everything that's outside the cage. You know what? UFC, those 3 letters are very, very powerful. If you're smart enough to take advantage of that, you know, like in the media, or you make a lot of contact in this sport, you know, not just like about fighting, but about everything branching out and all those things. So
Kenny Florian's done a great job.
An amazing job.
Kenny Florian has done, I mean, he's really reinvented the business side of MMA for a fighter too.
Exactly.
Right?
But, you know, fight is a fight, and sometimes this sport is very cruel, you know. It's just, even if you train perfectly, you didn't cheat, you train like 100%, you arrive and the night of the fight, you know, you lose, and it's, you know, it's heartbreaking. You know, it's not even like you don't feel the pain in your body. It's more like heartbreaking because all the sacrifice you did.
You were talking about the way that a fighter presents themselves, and we're seeing some great examples now of some up-and-coming guys who are a whole different breed of MMA artists. Can you talk to me about the evolution that you've seen from the days of fighting on the reserve all the way to fighting for a title fight? What has changed with regards to mixed martial artists? Have they become really, you know, the mixed martial artists versus a street brawler, the Chuck Liddells, the Randy Couture's, you know?
Yeah, for sure. There are more skills. Those guys are real mixed martial artists right now. We still have a tough time to get accepted, you know, by everybody because of the reserve. Because, you know, this sport was sold on the wrong way at the beginning, and everybody's they're sticking with this image.
The barbaric.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. But right now, man, if you watch it, not just the UFC, but everybody's stepping in the cage in a serious organization. Man, this is the elite fighter right there. This is not like a street fighter or a bouncer or something like that. You know, if you think you can train and go there and having success, it's wrong.
Before we let you go, I know you have a lot going on. Congratulations on all your success with TVA Sports. Maybe give our viewers a quick glimpse of what you're doing for TVA Sports and how that's been working out for you.
I'm like the French Joe Rogan. That's what I do. You know, I'm the French color commentator. I'm the official French voice for the UFC. So it's awesome. You know, I'm doing that for the last 6 years, working at TVA Sport for the last 3 years. So yeah, everything is good. We do every show, the pay-per-view, the Fox show. We do everything. And yeah, they treat us pretty good, but I'm still a fighter before a commentator.
Well, there it is, and thanks for being in here. Before we let you go, we're going to have a little bit of fun with you. It's our rapid fire segment. I'm going to throw 5 questions to you, and you let me know the first thing comes to your mind. So first things first, if there was a tag team event in MMA, who would you want as your partner and why?
I'll take Chael Sonnen, for sure, for sure.
Because he'll do the talking and you'll do the presenting?
Exactly.
Okay.
But he's not just an awesome fighter, but he can, you know, he's a showman. So for sure we're going to have fun.
When you play UFC on PlayStation, if you do, which character do you choose?
Mine, for sure. And I tried to beat everybody who beat me before.
Very good. If you wouldn't have done if you wouldn't have become a mixed martial artist, a fighter, what line of work would you have done?
Probably something related in sport. You know, I would like that. When I was young, I wanted to be a professional golfer, so maybe continue in that.
Well, that leads into my next question. Your favorite golfer?
Favorite golfer, I like Phil Mickelson because he is a lefty.
I'm a lefty as well.
Yeah.
I'm a lefty as well. I like Phil because he's a lefty as well. And last but not least, if it wouldn't have been the Predator, what nickname could it have been?
You know what? The first nickname at the beginning, I wasn't so serious about my career, but you know, I'm a big fan of Rocky and Apollo Creed, so that was a master of disaster. And my manager said, "Nah,
no." And I second that. That would have been good. Pat, great to have you, and thanks for facing off against me. Much appreciated. Great to have you. Stay right there. You don't want to miss it. My rant is up next. Believe me, I got something to say. Don't go anywhere. The Big Bad Bruins, 2011 Stanley Cup champions. last season's President's Trophy winners as the NHL's best team throughout the regular season. The regular season in which they dropped 3 of 4 went on to fall in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinal at the hands of your Montreal Canadiens. This seems to happen every year, but why? On paper, the Bruins have had the better roster, bigger names, numerous trophy winners including Vezina Trophy winner Tuukka Rask and the supposed tough scoring forward and defenseman in the league, 6'4", 220-pound and 6'9", 255-pound Milan Lucic and Zdeno Chara. Not only have they lost the big games of the year, but they always find somehow to feel the need to make plays such as the Pacioretty hit and the Emelin nut shot. And let's not forget everybody's favorite Bruin, Brad Marchand. His constant antics are an embarrassment to the NHL. And for a team that preaches respect and tradition, they fight less than a fair fight. Old-time hockey means fighting your own battles, mano a mano, not mugging a guy who made a perfectly legitimate play within league rules. But that's not the Boston way. They act tough, but when it comes push to shove, they blindside you. Defenders of the Crest will say it's a style, it's toughness. I say it's cowardly. Attempting to intimidate your opponent with long-term injury so they can compete is called bullying. Julians and his band of misfits know that if they play a clean, fair game, they get outskated, outscored, and outskilled. The Bruins like having their cake and eating it too, but like the NHL, otherwise known as Gary Bettman's league, Montrealers don't wear those rose-colored glasses. We see them for who they really are, and that's just a sheep in wolf's clothing. We invite you to join the conversation at facebook.com/RBTLSports, as well as on Twitter @RBTLSports. On behalf of the entire team, thanks for being with us. We'll see you next week.